We've got our engine and transmission seated in place the last time, but we're not going to do any more install as far as that goes until we get the rest of this old ratty wiring out of here. This is cloth wrapped wiring from the 50s. It's disintegrated, it's falling apart, it's rotted. We've got some old battery cables. We're going to get all that out of the way and cleaned up and go ahead and start pre-running some of our wiring so we can make a nice, neat job of it as we go. Let's talk about the wiring. We picked up a 21 circuit universal hot rod harness because, well, this is a hot rod now. I know some of you may not like that, but that's what it is. So it's a really nice, easy kit. Comes with your instructions on how to wire up all the basic things on here. It also comes with a bag full of little goodies. Now in this bag, you will find things like your alternator pigtail for a GM one-wire alternator, and you'll also find your connectors for a GM column. Now we don't have a GM column, but these are good to keep in your stash for a rainy day. The kit is really cool. It comes with a fuse block that is labeled, fuses installed, flasher and turn signal relay. And if you look behind me, you can see all those freaking wires. Now a big mistake people make when they start their wiring with a custom setup like this is they get it out and they look at it and they panic. There's no need to panic though, it's really easy. You just need to take your time, separate it out. They already separate this harness out a little bit. All of these wires here, they're, like I said before, they're all labeled. These are going to go to your dash area. These ones are to your high beam and your ignition setup, whether it's a switch or a column. And then this big bundle of wires here, these are going to your engine and to your lighting. So don't take any of the circuits out yet. This thing has a cruise control circuit and power windows. We're not going to use that, but don't cut it out yet because you may be able to repurpose it for a different circuit. The best thing to do is unroll them and start separating them into groups: lighting, engine, ignition, dash, all your major points where your wiring is going to contact, and then lay them out. Just put a little bit of tape around them or a zip tie to keep them coiled up nice, and just separate them and do one section at a time. Remember, don't cut any of the wiring out until you're ready to finalize it. Now, let me show you where we put the fuse box. I think it's going to work pretty good. Well, there it is right there. Now, that's the exact same point that the old fuse block was mounted. If you open the glove box, that is the glove box right there, and you can drill your holes right through there and then attach your nuts and bolts. You can see the harness is running out the bottom right now, but we actually do have room to run it out the side over there. And this way we can route it nice and clean behind the dash and keep everything hidden but still accessible. And just like that, we have everything that's going to our front lighting, everything that's going to our engine bay right there, and this is going to be all of our rear lighting and our fuel pump. Not too bad. Still looks like a nightmare in here, but whatever. While we're talking about wiring, let's talk about the cabling also, because this is stuff that we want to run before everything is put in solid to make sure everything's going to work. The throttle pedal, now the factory one was a mechanical linkage. This one is set up to accept a cable with a bracket that bolts on the bottom here. But I was looking at the factory pedal and I think we can repurpose it. So I cut all the BS off the back of the factory pedal, drilled some holes in it, and wouldn't you know, it actually looks pretty good on there. Looks like a factory pedal, but it'll function like a new one. We'll just put 2 holes in there, be ready to go. Let's talk about the steering a little bit. In one of my previous videos, we hinted at the steering just a little bit where we mounted the gearbox. There was a little hiccup though. When it came time to connect from our universal joint to the universal joint on the firewall and secure the column and the shaft, I wasn't really happy with the way that the kit did it. So we went with a little bit different route. What we're gonna do is we're going to make a tab that welds to this column and bolts this part to keep it secure in place here. And then we're gonna put a bearing on the end of this to hold the shaft centered, and then put our connecting shaft in between. Let's go ahead and get that stuff trimmed up, cut up, and into place, and I'll show you how it turned out. And here's the steering. It didn't turn out too bad. Let's go in for a closer look and show you what I did. Started at the firewall with a flange that we made, welded to the outside tube, and then bolted in, held in now with temporary self-tappers. We'll go back and put bolts in later. Welded a bearing at the bottom. Factory steering shaft comes out. That keeps it stabilized in the tube. We have the U-joints that came with the steering conversion kit and the double D shaft as well. cut all that down, drilled the dimples into the tubing for our set screws to hold into place, and bam, there you go. This looks a lot better than what the kit was asking us to do. It functions easy and it comes apart easy as well. The only things we have left to do is get the pitman arm on all the way, and then you're just gonna hook our 2 power steering lines from the gear assembly to the pump, which we haven't got in yet, but we will get to soon. Overall, that pretty much sums up the kit minus the lines. All right, just to give you an idea of what we have, we've basically drawn the frame out here, and then we've marked where the bottom of the transmission is, and we've got a center line drawn, and we have the thickness of our mount. So we know where our mount bolts to the bottom of the transmission. It'll be right here. We know where our frame is, and we know we're gonna have to bring our transmission cross member either straight across or down a little bit lower and come up and over. What we decided to do is we're gonna have these plates on the end, just like that, on each side. And then this round bar right here is gonna weld to the side and come straight across. And then this tab, which will be up like that, will weld to that pipe and we'll wrap it around. Let's go ahead and get it tacked up and cut down, and it'll make a little more sense. Well, there you go. We got her in. It's going to have 2 bolts on each side that bolted in. We've just got 1 bolt in right now. We've still got to drill the other. By the way, this frame is super thick. The pipe comes across, and we did have to make a hoop to go over the drive shaft. We did exaggerate that a little bit just in case. We got our bolt on our other side. We did have to shave a rivet down right there, but this is where I wanted the bracket to land. It gives us enough room, and then we're going to have to obviously make some brackets over here for our shift linkage, which we can build off of this member, which is kind of nice. All right, that's going to wrap up this update on the M37. A couple other things we didn't film that we did was we went ahead and painted the gearbox green and the column that army drab green, so it matches a little bit better. We also went ahead and fit our radiator up. We also got our Phytech unit in for the fuel injection, and of course, you got to put the pretty stuff on and see how it looks. In the next video for the M37, we're going to go a little more into the wiring and tidy that up, as well as the Phytech and hooking up the accessories like that fancy shiny chrome alternator over there and the power steering pump. Till next time, happy hot rodding.